Here's like the story of Joseph. I called him the faithful son of Jacob.
South Carolina local Michael Grady is a Florence-based CPA, but in his free time, he writes devotions that cater to all ages and encourage family Bible study.
I've been teaching in St. Paul in Florence since 1982. I was a teacher before that. But when I came here, we set up with my family. My son was 5, my daughter was 3, and that was kind of when we were settled. And I started telling these stories. And in '82 is when I started the children's church. Started specifically, I had a year on the Old Testament and a year on the New Testament, and when I was teaching them. And then I had another little series that I did. And so that was my concept. It was in the mid-90s that I said, I probably ought to put all this down in writing.
Today, Grady has released 3 devotionals, all entitled Making God Part of Your Family. His latest was released in March of 2023.
What I found out is that everybody going to church said the Bible was the most important book. But when you ask them if they read it, they said no. And so I've kind of learned over the years what that was, is that they said, I can't understand it. It's boring. And they don't think the Old Testament's relevant. And so I've used those concepts. I wanted to change that conception of the Bible. So what I did is I found like children or adults knew the Bible. And so I wanted something, my heart was, because it was something important in my family growing up, was that I wanted the family to start reading the Bible together. And how could I get them to do that? If you just read the book, they'd all get tired of it. So so my concept was to retell the stories. And when I'm retelling the stories, I did it on an adult level with an intention of having an adult level, because the parent didn't know the Bible either. So I wanted it on something that they could learn and understand and be taught. But I know an 8 to 12-year-old could understand it if you read it with them, because I'd been teaching them for 40 years. At that time, 35 years. But I'd been teaching them for so long, I knew they could understand it. The first book covers the first 5 books of the Bible. Genesis, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And then the second book covers Joshua through 1 Samuel. And then the third volume takes 2 Samuel through the end of the Old Testament. They each have kind of like a central message. All of them, I believe, tell God's story. All of them tell the story of Jesus, but there's different emphasis. I think the first volume sets the foundation. It's saying, okay, here's how God's plan of salvation for everybody, and here's how you come to that plan of salvation. I think that's the primary emphasis that I always think. The second one was after they left Egypt and they were going into their own promised land. It was how God wanted us to live here on earth and how they messed up all the time. Third book deals with what I call kingdom living. It's David was now king and Solomon was king, and that was during their biggest peak in terms of all of their following God and trying to work the way they did.
On Saturday, August 26th, Grady is expected to be doing a Barnes & Noble book signing from 1 to 5 p.m.
I think that the key that my message that Jesus wants to be part of our life. And God has laid that out in these Old Testament stories. It's there in the New Testament too. But that's what's so unique about this, is that it helps me believe Jesus is who he said he is, because he was prophesied so early on.